We're almost there. Almost to
days.
the NFC Championship game. I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's a fun time of year. The whole city's just kind of like vibing on what's going on. You can't go anywhere without hearing people talk about this game, people in Eagles jerseys. I mean, it's like that anyway, but it's magnified this week. It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. We've been having a lot of fun this week. A busy week, of course, but we're here for you. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan. With Reuben Frank, I'm Dave Zangaro. In a few days, Rube, the Eagles host the NFC Championship game against the Washington Commanders. First off, what's the vibe been like? We were down at the NovaCare complex on Wednesday. Anything that stood out to you?
You know what stood out to me? It just seems like such a normal week in the locker room. You wouldn't be able to tell if it was a preseason game against the Jets coming up or an NFC Championship game. And I think that's probably a good thing. I think this is a pretty mature team, pretty plugged-in team, focused. I don't think you're going to see anything out of the ordinary. They're just preparing for another football game. And I think when you don't make it bigger than it is, you have the best chance to perform at your best. It's like anything else. Like they used to tell us when we did piano recitals, just approach it like you're just sitting down in your house and playing the piano. Like, don't make it into this big, I'm playing a piano recital. And I think football is a lot like playing the piano. I could ask Tanner McKee that since he's taking piano lessons during the off season. But I was impressed by their demeanor and the way they've handled things so far. Honestly,
it was one of the most relaxed locker rooms we've seen. Like they were playing like some soft. There was like Chris Stapleton playing softly in the background. That. Everyone was kind of just hanging out.
I did not have Chris Stapleton playing in the locker room on my bingo card.
Yeah, it was kind of a like a relaxed atmosphere, and even like I don't think we talked to A.J. Brown and Saquon Barkley. I don't think they were particularly thrilled to have to do their podium things, but it's the NFC Championship game, so things get kind of ratcheted up from the media side of things. Like they have more people at the podium. The NFL starts running stuff a little bit. That's like the only way you can tell that it's a different kind of week.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, it used to be like the attendance at media events for this, this time of year would double, but it doesn't happen anymore. I think, you used to have like 10 national guys coming in, but there just aren't those national guys anymore. And at least not writers, not reporters. There's like information guys, but breaking news guys. But so it just seemed like a normal week so far.
Yeah, there might be a few new faces on Thursday and Friday
Maybe.
At the NovaCare. But yeah, pretty much business as usual. A little bit later in today's podcast, we'll get into our matchups to watch in this Eagles-Commanders game, the rubber match between these two NFC East teams. We talked to our buddy JP Finlay from Washington, NBC in Washington, known him for a long time. He's covered some really bad teams in his career, so he gets to cover a good one this year. We talk about some of the big things to watch in this game. We have a bunch of questions to answer from everyone a little bit later in the show, and we will give our predictions for the NFC Championship game at the end. I wanted to start with injuries, though, and the big one, Jalen Hurts, he was listed as limited to start the week with that knee injury. He's going to play on Sunday. What did he have to say about that injury?
He said he's progressing and that he's taking it day by day and keeping the main thing. Well, no, he didn't say that, but he doesn't give you a lot. So it's hard to really draw conclusions. I asked him about, every year, this time of year, he's had an injury. It's kind of weird. Like he's never gotten hurt before like week 15. I guess the original ankle injury in 21 was week 12, but they've all been late season type things. And he's never really been 100% in the playoffs. He was for a game and a half this year, but he said that's football. He said that's what you sign up for. You're going to get banged up. He said, I'm not going to make any excuses. And I'm going to go play, and which I like. I like that answer. Because, it'd be easy to say, I just wish I could be 100%. And he's not going to be 100%. It's just, I don't think anybody knows how much below 100% he'll be. And we talked about this last night at our appearance over at Xfinity. I wouldn't be surprised if really early first or second drive, maybe the first drive, if they have an opportunity to just get him out in the open field for an 8-yard run or something, just to kind of put it out there that, he can do this, and he might not do it again, but
if he can do it,
if he can. And you know what? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with his knee, but I think he'll be significantly below 100%, but healthy enough to make a play here and there if he needs to. And maybe instead of a 12-yard run, it'll be a 6-yard run. Or I don't know. Maybe he'll slide earlier. I don't think anybody will know until Sunday exactly what's going on. But I think the fact that he was limited or listed as limited is encouraging. Just the fact that usually on a Wednesday, if it's a serious injury, you might be limited Thursday, then practice Friday, something like that. But, we'll see Thursday. We'll know more after Thursday's practice and see how he's listed. I would anticipate him being full on Thursday, but we'll see. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, the injury report almost doesn't matter because we know he's going to play. It's just a matter of what is he able to do in the game?
But if he's full, I think it's encouraging. It's telling you that they're not, they're not holding him back. He's not under any limitations. But yeah, you're right. And, we've seen him have games where he doesn't run and makes a lot of plays in the passing game. A Pittsburgh game is the one recent one. There haven't been a lot this year, been a couple. But I'm really curious to see what it looks like with him and what his ability is to make plays in the passing game if he's not, able to move like he usually is, which he probably won't be.
Yeah, we know they're going to be tight-lipped about his injury status. And for a lot of the year, I make fun of the Eagles for the ridiculous competitive advantage thing. But in this case, they stand nothing to gain by being really open about his injury. I think this is one of the rare cases where I completely understand. You don't say anything about his injury. You put out the report and that's it. And you let the Commanders kind of wait and see how healthy he is on Sunday.
Yeah, this is a little different than whether Tyler Steen's starting at right guard and it's week 10 and he still hasn't. Well, Makai's going to be the starter. It's a little different. But yeah, I would agree with that. And, the less Washington knows, the more tricky, I guess it is to prepare. Mm-hmm. Because look, when you're preparing for the Eagles offense, I mean, a big part of that is Jalen's movement and his ability to make plays either on the run or make plays with his legs.
Yeah, it really dictates how you stop the run or you try to stop the run against this team.
Yeah. Yeah. And it affects everything. It's going to affect Saquon. It's going to affect everything. So we will see.
The other big injury coming out of the game that everyone was worried about was Quinyon Mitchell with that shoulder. He started the week listed as limited. He told us in the locker room he's playing. He said there are no limitations. Take that for what it's worth, but I do expect him to play, and that's a really nice boost because that's nothing against Isaiah Rodgers, but Quinyon Mitchell has been their best cornerback this year.
He has. He's been just lights out, and it looks like they might have dodged a bullet because that was scary looking.
Yeah, whenever a player gets ruled out in a game, sometimes you see them be listed as questionable and they don't return.
Yeah.
When you rule a player out, sometimes that signals something. So I think that's a nice surprise to start this weekend to have Quinyon available.
Yeah, I would guess that they didn't want to put him out there until, they want to play him until he had an MRI or something to see if there's any structural, because you don't want to make it worse. So that's something that you don't have a chance to do that during the game. So, yeah, he's been, and we're now in week 21? I don't even know what week we're in, but he's 21. A rookie.
Yeah.
What is it?
21.
Is it 21? I mean, he's playing so well right now. And I mean, I guess it's like a cliche to say, well, they're rookies, but they're not playing like rookies. But I forget that he is a rookie because he's been so consistent, so good. And there's two of them. I mean, there's two of them playing at a high level. And, we'll go through the AP award finalists in a bit. But, I mean, I'm going to look up the last time. I should be able to do it pretty easily. The last time a playoff team had two rookie corners, D-backs, and made a run, it's rare. It's rare to have one. So, I mean, those kids are special, and they're not just good players, but they're just so, they're so focused. They don't carry themselves like rookies. They're serious-minded. They prepare, they study. It's really a special thing to have two of them.
Yeah, their maturity stands out.
Yeah, it really does.
The other injuries on the report, we don't have a ton of information about as we sit here recording this on Thursday morning. Dallas Goedert with an ankle, Cam Jurgens with a back, listed as DNP on Wednesday. Now, the Eagles held a walkthrough on Wednesday, so this is an estimation. not saying this is what's happening, but you can play some games with the estimated injury report. So I think the big test comes Thursday and Friday. Are they on the practice field? If they are, they're going to play. Like this is
right.
This is win or go home. So if you can play in the game, you play in the game.
And Dallas Goedert's scheduled to talk to the media Thursday afternoon, which I'm thinking if there's any chance he wasn't going to play, they wouldn't trot him out there. Now, I guess they could cancel it, but as of now, he's scheduled to talk. I'm confident he'll be out there.
Yeah. A.J. Brown's still with that knee. He said he's getting better, feeling better every week. So I don't know if that's true or not. Britton Covey had his practice window activated. He's been on IR again with that neck shoulder injury. It'd be nice to have him back, and that way Cooper Jean can just focus on playing nickel corner.
Yeah, I think that would be big. And he's done a nice job as a returner. Covey's a guy that I wouldn't worry about him not playing. I mean, he's played 2 games since like week 6 or something. I don't worry about him. He just catch the ball, get a few yards. I mean, I don't worry about him muffing it or fumbling it. So I think he'll be fine. And I think that he'll be up as long as he's, comes through these practices okay.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of signals that he's ready to play because he had been practicing before they put him on IR again,
right,
and he wasn't ready to play. So I don't think they'd activate his practice window if he wasn't ready to play.
Exactly.
All right. The only other thing we've been asked a bunch about is Brandon Graham and his status. Clearly will not play in the NFC Championship game. They did not activate his practice window. Maybe hold out a little bit of hope that he could somehow return if the Eagles make it to the Super Bowl. I still think it's, unlikely given that injury and given the layoff, but I think it's a non-zero chance.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But I think it's very low. Because I think it's an injury that, like, if you can't use your hands and your arms with power, you're going to be really compromised at that position.
Especially the way he plays.
Yeah. And I just don't think they're going to put him out there if he's like 60% or 70%, because as great as he was playing before he got hurt, he's not going to be that player. And, you got to figure out a roster spot. So you're taking somebody off the 53 and putting him on. I would only do it if he's going to be close to, 100% and be able to play a significant number of snaps. You're not going to take a roster spot if you're going to just go out there and play 5 snaps. So,
well, it's not even about the number of snaps he's going to play. It's about his ability to play more, right? Because right now Bryce Hubb is on the roster. He's not playing at all.
Right.
But if there's an injury, he could take on that third position because he's conditioned right now.
Yeah, that's true. I wouldn't expect to see him out there. I'd love to see it, and I'm sure it's driving him crazy. Well, we talked to him yesterday. It's got to be driving him nuts to not be a part of this, but he's still around and still making his presence known in the locker room and on radio.
All right. Want to get into these matchups?
Let's do it.
So the Commanders were 12-5 in the regular season. They split their season series with the Eagles. We all remember those games. Week 11 in Philly, week 16 in Washington. The Commanders had that come from behind win. Jaden Daniels, fantastic in that fourth quarter. Before we get into the specific matchups that I have written out, anything that like in this game you think is just the biggest thing to watch?
Well, I was thinking about it driving down today, and like I think whichever team does a better job neutralizing, like you figure Washington superstars Jaden Daniels, Eagles superstar Saquon, and those are the 2 guys that have gotten their teams to this point, and neither team would be here without them, clearly. Whichever team does a better job neutralizing that superstar is going to win. And they're 2 great players, and you have the best running back in the league, one of the best ever, and the best rookie quarterback anybody's ever seen. So that's what makes this matchup so intriguing to me.
Yeah, I think that's true. And if we're being honest about this, I think the Commanders clearly have the better quarterback coming into this game. I think
he's playing better. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's the better quarterback. I mean, Jalen's got a pretty good track record, but Jaden Daniels is playing better right now.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I mean. He's right now, he's the better quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And like, that's not a knock on Jalen Hurts. Like I think Jaden Daniels has a case. You can say he's the best quarterback left in the playoffs right now, the way he's been playing.
You can make that case.
I think it's a really strong case. I think he's been the best quarterback that's still left. And that's not saying you'd rather have him in a game than some of the other guys, but he's playing the best right now.
Yeah. I mean, one guy he's playing better than has won 3 Super Bowls and is a Hall of Famer already, but you're probably right.
Yeah. If we're just like, if you don't know the resume, you don't know the history, and just look at the player. If
Patrick Mahomes had the weapons that Jaden Daniels had, his numbers might look a little better, but I think it's a fair point.
Mm-hmm. Let's start with that. Vic Fangio against Jaden Daniels. We know the history of rookies in this championship game. They're
0-5.
0-5. So there's never been a rookie to lead his team to the Super Bowl like this. I think the history stacks against him, but that's not, I don't think Vic Fangio's too worried about that this week.
Yeah. And the last one was Brock Purdy right here. I mean, the Eagles are playing a rookie in an NFC Championship game 2 out of 3 years. On paper, they're, you love that. And the trend says, a lot of the trends favor the Eagles just because, but he's not a rookie. I mean, he's just, nobody considers him a rookie anymore. So it's an intriguing matchup because you have this veteran defensive coordinator he's seen everything. He's prepared for everybody. And you have a young kid quarterback. So it's the, youth and exuberance and just getting better every week versus this D coordinator who's, been coaching forever since the mid 80s and has seen it all. And, will he have answers? And, it's important to remember, I mean, the Eagles shut down Jaden Daniels pretty much through 3 quarters in the last game. I think Washington had 14 points going into the fourth quarter. He had thrown 2 touchdowns. But they played him well for quite a while in that game, just not long enough.
Yeah, you guys remember the touchdown. It was 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. The last one was 6 seconds left to Jamison Crowder. Yeah, he has that to him. Like, I think if the Eagles have a chance to really take a big lead in this game and they don't, I think there's going to be, you're going to feel a little tightness in your chest at the link.
Field goals in the first half are going to beat you in this game.
Yeah, I think that's very possible. Yeah. So I wonder, we know Dan
Fortunately, you'll miss him. So I'm just kidding.
We know Dan Quinn's going to be aggressive. Like, curious to see what Nick Sirianni does in this game, if he's aggressive enough.
I think you have to be.
Yeah, I do too. It's interesting. You look at the way the Eagles handled Daniels in these 2 games. They didn't blitz him almost at all.
More in the second game, right?
Yeah, in week 11, I'm saying they didn't blitz him almost at all. And then week 16, 35%, which is pretty high for them. And I don't know, they didn't really get home on him.
They had 1 sack, right? I forget if it was on a blitz or not. He's a tough guy to blitz just because he sees the field. He makes quick decisions. He's got Eckler and he's got Ertz as, underneath type guys. And he loves throwing to those 2 guys. But yeah, I mean, we get asked, like, I don't know how many different ways we were asked at our event last night. How do you defend him? And there's no one magic potion that you do. I mean, you just have to do a little bit of everything and see what's working and try to confuse him, try to mix him up. But nobody's been able to do that.
Yeah, you try to confuse him with your coverages. I think when you're talking in terms of rushing him, you have to be disciplined. You can't get out of your rush lanes because he'll make you pay for that. And look, he might make you pay anyway. Like, I think that's a really big key to this game. There's inevitably going to be like a 3rd and 9 where you have everything bottled up. The pass rush can't get home. He somehow gets out of it and scrambles for a first down, moves the sticks. You got to live with that. And you just got to go to the next play. And you can't get down on yourself because it can be so demoralizing for a defense, but you just can't let it get to you.
Didn't he convert like a 4th and 11 with a 30-yard run in the last game? They stop him there. You win the game. I think his decision-making, when to run, when to throw it away, when to move around the pocket is exceptional.
Yeah. And when he does scramble, like most right-handed quarterbacks, he tries to escape to his right. We've seen that. Try to funnel him the other way. It's not easy. Like, we've seen that with Jalen early in his career, right? Like, everything's to the right, everything's to the right, everything's to the right. If you can try to funnel him back the other way, you do. It's a lot easier said than done because he can turn the corner on you.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But, I don't want to I mean, he has lost games. He has thrown interceptions. Like, he's not Superman.
He even threw 2 interceptions in the last matchup between these two.
He did one critical one down the stretch. I think Blankenship, which you kind of felt like ended the game.
That should have been the end of the game, we thought.
Yeah.
That was the other thing about that collapse is like the defense left the field after that interception thinking like, oh, they won this game. And then, of course, the Devontae drop happens and they have to go back on the field. And that's when they lose. But it's funny how the result really changes the way you think about something. And I understand that it should, but they were very close from everyone saying the Eagles shut them down when it mattered most. They made the play. And we never would have seen that last drive.
I was probably writing that in my obs at that moment.
Yeah, Reed Blankenship, the closer, right?
Yeah.
He did it again.
Yeah, that one got deleted. And he'll get sacked too. He'll take some sacks. So
he'll also get out of them.
He'll get out of them. I think one game he was sacked 8 times. I think the week before the Eagles game was that the Saints maybe sacked him a bunch. So yeah, he's not like I don't want to make it sound like you can't make plays against this guy. You can, and he is young, and you try to force some rookie mistakes. He's just playing at a high level.
Yeah. Next matchup: Jalen Carter versus a backup right guard.
I like this one.
Yeah, this is a big deal. Sam Cosmi, who's played at a really high level right guard, just got a new contract not long ago. Tore his ACL. He's out for the season. I thought he did a really nice job against Carter the last time these two teams faced each other. So you have a backup in there. So it kind of means Jalen Carter is going to see doubles at an even higher rate than he normally does, which means one-on-ones for Milton Williams. And that's where Milton Williams has cashed in all year.
Yeah. And Milton should probably give 10% of his game checks to Jalen Carter, although Jalen Carter makes a lot more than him. But yeah, Milton knows how to take advantage of those situations. Jalen Carter, I don't know. I mean, he's playing so well right now. And I mean, I don't even know who to compare him to or how to put it into context. The thing I like the most about what he's doing is the big knock on him was his fitness. And, at Georgia, he only played 25 snaps a game. And, he's not going to be any good late in the game. I mean, the last 2 plays of the game, he had a sack that was like maybe the biggest defensive play this team's made this year on the, down to the 22 from the 13 and set up the fourth down and then had great pressure on fourth down.
Same move. And that was his 70th and 71st snaps of the game or something like that. He's put that to rest, that whole, he plays 98% of their snaps. So it's really incredible how far he's grown in that area. I think the thing that impresses me most about him is just his football savvy.
Yeah.
Like he's fun to watch out there. He's not mechanical. He just has a great feel for to fake a stunt and cross the face of the center and then spike back inside and beat him with a swim. Who's doing that?
Yeah.
It's fun to watch. In a way, it's so free flowing. It's almost like a Michael Bennett, just fun to watch, just doing some unique things that you can't teach. He just has some savvy about him that I really like. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just instincts. Maybe because he's such a physical specimen and his, we all know how fast he ran at the combine at that size. He doesn't get the credit for his football IQ, which is really high.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he's, to me, that's the most impressive thing about him, his savvy. Trent Scott is the backup guard. He's played a lot of football for them. He's kind of been their 6th man all year. He'll be in there. Good luck. I think starting level players struggle with Carter.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be a good matchup.
Next is the run game. Brian Robinson Jr., Austin Eckler. Obviously Robinson kind of more of a threat between the tackles. Eckler, the pass catcher, really hurt them in the first game, didn't play in the second game, but he's kind of their safety valve. And without Nakobe Dean, I think you do worry a little bit about, and we can kind of throw Zach Ertz in the mix as their tight end. I think you worry about the linebackers in coverage a little bit. You don't worry about Zach Bone. I think you worry about Oren Burks.
Yeah, and that does concern me. Obviously, Kyron Williams isn't a big pass threat in the passing game, but Eckler is as good as anybody. And Yeah, that's a matchup I'm concerned about with Nakobe out. There's no question about it. And Orenburg's played really well, I thought, on Sunday, but he'll be challenged in a different way in this game.
Yeah, you remember in Week 11, Eckler had 8 catches for 89 yards, a lot of stress on the defense. Yeah. That's something to watch. The Commanders aren't a particularly good running team, and they haven't really been a good running team against the Eagles. Robinson's fine. He'll break some tackles here and there, but the Eagles have had a lot of success against them. Robinson in 2 games this year, just 26 carries for 87 yards. So, I mean, they've done a really good job at bottling him up.
Yeah, and, the Eagles' run defense has been a little iffy since BG went out. Hasn't been the same, but certainly would go a long way to helping them if they can shut him down.
Yeah. Zach Ertz is having a nice resurgent season this year. It was nice to hear him talk about finding his love for football again. We love Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
The Eagles have done a really nice job against tight ends. Now, I don't know if that changes without Nakobe Dean. We saw last week they gave up a few plays to Tyler Higbee. But again, this year, actually, they gave up the fewest receiving yards to tight ends in the NFL.
I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. Where are you getting that?
Pro Football Reference.
Really? How'd you look that up?
I know something about Pro Football Reference that you don't.
Apparently.
Wow. Yeah, they gave up the fewest yards to tight ends this year. 68 catches on 103 targets for 591 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Those are good numbers. Yeah, Ertz is playing well. And yeah, he forgot, like, when Kingsbury left, or he got fired from Arizona, I guess, after the 22 season. I think he went to coach at USC for a year before he got the Washington job under Quinn. And Ertz was still with Arizona. And, I mean, he kind of hinted that they didn't really know how to use him. Pardon me. And I appreciate that they've slacking me some stat head stuff. But, yeah, I mean, he got cut and he was out of work. And nobody wanted him. And he was wondering about his future. And then Kingsbury comes back to the NFL and they sign him. And, yeah, he had his best year really since probably 21, I guess. So, yeah, I think everyone in Philly's happy for him, but
not on Sunday.
Hope he drops everything on Sunday.
And then
he's 6th all time among tight ends in catches. He passed Greg Olsen in the last couple of weeks. Obviously, these don't count, but yeah, great career. Over 8,000 yards receiving.
Yep. Terry McLaurin is their best receiver, obviously, but Jaden Daniels mixes the ball around a lot. He'll hit some of the other guys, Crowder and Zacchaeus in that last game against the Eagles, made big plays. Diami Brown all of a sudden is playing really well. Like, that guy's career we thought was toast, and all of a sudden, like, he's one of their better players. He's catching the ball all over the field. In the playoffs, Brown's actually their leading receiver. He has 11 catches for 187 yards and a touchdown. McLaurin right there, 11 for 176 and 2.
Yeah, and I think you just touched on something that another thing Jaden Daniels does real well is spreading the ball around, and makes him tougher to defend. I mean, he'll use all his receivers and his backs and his tight ends. Makes it tougher to defend.
Yeah. I want to flip to the other.
See a lot of young like a lot of young quarterbacks. They have their couple favorite guys. He spreads the ball around like a veteran.
All right. Want to flip to the Eagles offense?
Let's do that.
It starts with Saquon. He's killed the Commanders. Really. I mean, 146 yards in week 11, 150 in week 16. Now, the caveat here is in week 16, most of those yards came in the first half. They really bottled him up. In the second half, they sold out to stop the run. He ended up with 16 carries for 17 yards in the second half.
Yeah. It's one of the few times he was kind of held down. Usually it's
27 yards, sorry.
It's been the opposite, where he'll have kind of a quiet first half and a big second half. But, yeah, their run defense is not very good. I think they were 26th. They've gotten gashed in the postseason. I think they're allowing over 6 yards a carry in the postseason. So, look, this is a running back having one of the greatest years ever by a running back against a bottom 10 run defense. And if the Eagles have, I mean, their biggest advantage in this game is 26 against that run defense. And, I'm not a run the ball 50 times every week guy, but this week might be the week to do it.
Yeah, and we'll see like to what level they try to sell out to stop it. If they do, then maybe you have to change it up a little bit. But the nerd stats tell you this is a really big matchup for the Eagles.
Yeah.
Yards before contact. So this is a stat that tells you how big the holes are. Commanders have given up 1.9 yards before contact per carry this season. That's the most in the league. The Eagles among the league leaders, 2.17 yards before contact. So it tells you like there are going to be some big holes in this game. And with a guy like Saquon, he doesn't just hit the hole and get a few yards. Like he has a chance to break one every time.
Yeah, I have a nice story going. Well, I think it's a nice story going later this week on what it's like, that moment where he kind of where his teammates know that he's gone. And I think I talked to like 8 guys yesterday about that. It was a fun story to do. I think Kenny Pickett was saying like, he's 3 yards past the line of scrimmage. Like everyone on the sidelines raising their arms.
It's been one of the most fun things to like watch the game tape.
Yeah.
Because you get to see it.
Yeah.
And yeah, the 78-yarder, Jalen barely waited until he got past the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's unique. I mean, he's got more 60-yard touchdowns this year than anybody in history. He's got 6. Nobody else has ever had more than 4. It was Jim Brown in like 1957. He's doing like, this is like a Mark McGuire type. Well, just home run hitting at a record pace, I guess. Who's the other guy? Sammy Sosa that year. Yeah. I'm not saying that Saquon's on any substances or anything. That's not what I meant. Just
he's gonna have a little white notice in his locker the next game.
But you know what I mean. Just like hitting home runs at an unprecedented pace. That's what he's doing. And you see these kind of big plays from like Deshaun, Jerry Rice, like great receivers, but not from a running back. And he's like redefined the position as far as the big plays. And
the cool thing about him too is that he hits singles and doubles too.
A lot of singles and doubles, a lot of 15s and 16s. I think it was Will Shipley said, it's not a matter of if, it's when. It's like, when is he going to bust it? And so you just sit there waiting, and you know what's going to happen.
It was funny. He talked about his 78-yarder. He said it's his favorite touchdown of his career.
Yeah.
I get it. I mean, that's a huge play and a huge moment.
And he didn't know why he was smacking himself in the helmet.
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah.
He's a piece of work. He's fun to be around. And, I just feel so fortunate to be along for the ride for this kind of season. It's especially when I'm doing my stats column every week. Like,
yeah, he's really rejuvenated your career.
Yeah, I did a whole separate Saquon stats piece this week because I just didn't want to glom up the regular one with all the Saquon stats. So some of them are just mind blowing, but it's been fun to watch. He's a class act. He's such a team guy. Everybody loves him in the locker room. Yeah, it's been quite a year.
A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith against these Washington corners.
Yeah.
Pretty good corners now because you have Lattimore on one side, Mikey Senor still the rookie on the other, then Noah Igbenogany in the slot. I like Senor still. He's a fun player.
You've made that clear.
Yeah.
Is he your favorite player in the league? Has he supplanted
player in the league? No.
Supplanted Justin Tucker? No, he's really good. Their corners are good.
Yeah, the thing about Senor still is like he's undersized, but man, he doesn't play it. Like he kind of reminds you of DJ Reed, just like undersized, but is an outside corner. Like I thought he was going to have to be a nickel only based on his size, but he's holding up fine. He's making some big plays. Lattimore and A.J. Brown had a really fun battle in week 16. We don't know exactly how healthy A.J. is, but I'd imagine he'll see a lot of Lattimore in this game.
I would think so. And I mean, it's hard to believe A.J. Brown's numbers. And he's played 5 postseason games as an Eagle. He's only been over 30 yards once, which is crazy. That was a Super Bowl. So at least his timing was good. But I don't know how much the knee's bothering him. I'm guessing it's bothering him somewhat.
I think the snow bothered him more than the knee.
He was not happy with the snow. I just feel like they need a big game from A.J. I just think you can get away with 14 yards or 10 yards some weeks, but I think this week they need him.
And they made a concerted effort to target him
7
In
targets.
the last game, he didn't come through. He obviously dropped a couple, which is his first 2 drops of the year.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's the knee. I think that's the conditions.
Probably. Although if you're not 100% physically, sometimes you're not able to do the things you can normally do.
Sure.
So it could have been a little both, but certainly the conditions were terrible by the end of that game.
I think Jalen has to be a little better in the pocket, just with his awareness, and it's something it's creeps up sometimes with him. It was bad in the last game. Now, obviously, the mobility wasn't great, and I don't think Kellen Moore did him any favors with some of the play calling, but he'll need to be a little better in this game.
Yeah, it's odd how it does creep in sometimes to his game.
And I can make I think it was even an issue last game before the injury.
Yeah, it was.
So the injury explains some of it, but not all of it.
Right. But it's also, it just seems like every year at some point he has one of those games where he's just not comfortable. He just looks a little he's just not seeing things well. He's not getting rid of the ball. He's hanging on to it too long. He's running the wrong way. He just doesn't have a good sense of where the pressure's coming from. And you don't really expect that from a 5th-year guy who's played a lot of football. And look, he's not turning the ball over. He's being efficient for the most part. He's putting up points. He's getting the ball in the end zone. I don't want people to mistake me and talking about his pocket awareness as being super critical of him. It's just something he's got to be better at.
Yeah, and this is like an okay line. They had some sacks this year, but their edge rushers are okay. You have Dante Fowler. You have Dorrance Armstrong, who's playing really well in the playoffs. And I know the Eagles have a lot of respect for him. They think he's an underrated player. They've seen him for a long time. Frankie Louvu will get some sacks as he'll get some pressure. They'll blitz him, and obviously we know that he's not afraid to take it up to the line with some of those hits. So you watch out for that. Yeah. In this game, he knocked Hurts out of the game in week 16. So they have some okay rushers. They have Jonathan Allen playing better inside. He missed a lot of the year, but he's looking healthier. Deron Payne on the inside has been a good player for a long time. But it's an okay line. I think the Eagles' offensive line has a decided advantage in this game. Definitely in the run game. And I also think in pass protection. So Jalen's just got to trust the protection and trust the pocket.
Yeah, I would agree with that assessment. And I think this O-line has an advantage over almost any D-line, but I think it'll be pronounced this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then last one is Dallas Goedert. We'll see his health status with that ankle injury, but he's been a really, really big boost for this team.
Yeah, 8 targets in the postseason, 8 catches for over 100 yards. Was it 103 maybe? He's really been the one guy that Jalen trusts in big moments in the postseason, and had a tough year, missed 7 games. But through his career, he's been just really solid in the postseason. He's got 8 straight games with 4 more catches in the playoffs, which is the second longest streak ever by a tight end. Kelsey's got 15 straight. So he's not going to catch him anytime soon, but he's just been really consistent, really solid, all-time Eagles leading receiver in the postseason. He passed Chad Lewis. I almost said Chad Hall. Passed Chad Lewis in the Packers game. And just Jalen trusts him. In big moments, the ball's going to him. He knows how to get open, and he's so good with the ball in his hands. He's so physical. He's fast. We've been saying since 2018, or maybe since 2019, he's just going to put it all together and have that, that 75 catch, 1,000-yard season. He hasn't done that in the regular season, but he's been really good in the postseason. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's more than just his pass catching ability. He's been so good as a run blocker. This stat kind of blew me away from Next Gen Stats.
Yeah, I like this one.
When he's on the field this year, the Eagles have averaged 6.3 yards per run, design run. Without him, 4.7. And there are other factors, obviously, in there, but I think it tells you, with him on the field, they're just a much better running team.
At 4.7 is not bad.
No, it's pretty good.
6.3, is that what you said, or 6.2?
6.3.
6.3 is really good. So that's a good stat. I like that one. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah, it's really good. And you think about Grant Calcaterra's out there and they're getting some kind of production, but they're not getting that much in the run game. Grant's trying out there. He's not Dallas Goedert at the point of attack.
There aren't many who can block like he can and be the receiving threat that he can. Kittle's the best at those two, combined. But there's not a lot of guys like that.
All right. That's the matchups.
Good stuff.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Want to tell everyone, Sunday's a big day, obviously. A lot of coverage from us. 12:30, Birds Huddle game day, full hour of that. And then pregame live. It's a marathon. We start at 1:30. Rube will be on that, myself as well, Barrett Brooks, Jaws, Michael B. Should be a lot of fun. And then postgame, it could go one of two ways, Rube. It's going to be a lot of excitement and talking about New Orleans or talking about how in the heck did this thing fall apart. All right, welcome back to the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan. Reuben Frank and Dave Zangaro. Now joining us from Washington, our old buddy, JP Finlay. JP, man, this has been kind of a wild year for you guys down in Washington.
It's been nuts. I think expectations here were probably a little bit higher than around the country, but they weren't this at all. I thought Jaden was going to be good. I didn't know he'd be this. I didn't know he'd be, at least in my opinion, going into championship weekend, the quarterback playing the best football right now, not body of work, but right now, the guy that's playing at the highest level. I thought they would be in year one of turning this thing around, but no way did I expect this. It's been a blast. The way they've been, creating turnovers over the last week or last couple of weeks here in the playoffs has been phenomenal. And if you had told me Philly was going to be in the NFC title game back in August, I would have been like, yeah, that makes sense. I wouldn't have expected to say the sentence and mean it. I think Washington can hang with them and maybe steal this thing.
Well, at what point did you what was Jaden Daniels like training camp, preseason? At what point did you start to realize there was something really special there?
There were a number of moments where he looked really good. And then you guys know how it goes. When there's a rookie, you kind of get to know him in increments between OTAs and then camp starts. And you see how he interacts with his teammates and stuff. See how he acts in the locker room, those sorts of things. And quarterbacks generally are all a little bit removed, kind of sequestered, kind of in their own world. And Jaden really doesn't operate like that. Like he kind of just hangs out as one of the guys. There were a few moments that really stood out. They went down to Miami for joint practices in August, and it was super hot and humid and crazy. And he torched the Dolphins. And I think it was the second day of the joint practices. He just absolutely torched them. And it wasn't live, but there was no hitting, but it was pretty close to full speed on the lines of scrimmage. And that stood out to the Dolphins players, stood out the way they were talking about it. Fast forward to the regular season, there was another moment in the preseason. I think it was the first pass he threw in the preseason was a check at the line of scrimmage 9 route to De'Ami Brown that he just dialed in perfectly. And Kingsbury and Dan Quinn were kind of pissed because they're like, dude, why are you showing that in the preseason? But and then the regular season opener is in Tampa. Todd Bowles is blitzing the hell out of him. His eyes weren't quite ready for the speed. He took off running all the time. Week 2, Giants at home, similar. The first half of that game was like figuring it out. And then at halftime, it was like he saw the light. And the second half of the Giants game and then going forward, he remembered, I'm an elite pocket passer. I'll run when I need to. And he just started carving teams up. And I think the country saw it that Monday nighter, week 3 against Cincinnati, that touchdown throw to McLaurin in the back right corner of the end zone. And just his performance that night, I think he completed like 88% of his passes. It was unbelievable. And it's kind of been a pretty wild ride since.
Yeah, you think back to week 16 and he's just got that killer to him. It's the kind of, you get in the fourth quarter and he's in the game. I think that's a scary place to be for the opponent. What's has the rest of the team kind of adopted that mindset of hey, if we're in a game late, he's probably going to try to win it for us and he has a chance to do it?
Totally. 1,000,000%. And to your point, DQ had an awesome comment about him. He's like, because Jaden is extremely Southern California. He is just very laid back, very easygoing, very chill. And DQ said until he gets inside the lens of the helmet when he becomes an absolute killer. And he often, I don't I'm sure there's a favorite football player. He grew up loving Donovan McNabb, but it seems like Kobe Bryant's probably his favorite athlete ever. And if you just consider his age and when Kobe was at his prime in the LA area and all that, he wears his Kobe shirt with some regularity. And Kobe was just an absolute competitive, almost a competitive jerk on the court. And I think that's what Jaden is. It's crazy to have that kind of night and day personality. One of the coolest things for Jaden, like the most emotion he's shown as it shows on the field was actually when Mariota had that game-winning drive week 18 against Dallas. And he's like, when I do something, I want it to be about my teammates. So when my teammates do something, I want to celebrate them. And I just thought, gosh, what a mature kind of unique perspective.
It was crazy in that Tampa game. I guess it was Gonzalez made that game-winning field goal, and everybody on the bench is screaming and jumping up and down. He's just kind of sitting there like, like he's watching Gilligan's Island or something. It was, he just seems wired so differently, and I'm sure that benefits him in those late game situations. Just that chill where nothing really affects him, nothing bothers him. He just is able to function at a high level no matter what's going on around him.
I never covered him. I remember watching it as a kid, and I've only heard the story like you guys have, but the Joe Montana, John Candy's in the crowd.
John Candy story. I was at that game.
That's I mean, that's so cool. And he seems to have the same type of personality, not only in the cool laid back, but he's always smiling. Like nothing seems to bug him. He had a really great line after the Bengals game week 3. They're going to Arizona, and the team traveled directly from Cincy to Arizona because they had a short week and long travel. And then when we finally got back from Arizona, I remember at his avail that week, they had the Browns at home that week, and the Browns were terrible. I don't know if they were 0-4, but they were maybe 1-3, and everything. Watson was already hurt. Like I think everything was already starting to go wrong for Cleveland. And he got the question a ton, like, "Oh, are you worried about a letdown? Are you worried about a letdown?" And he's like, "If you never get too high, you can't really come down." And he just tries to stay on that even keel at all times. And when you're hearing this stuff from a young player, whatever that would be, the first or second week of October, you're like, all right, like maybe he just knows the right things to say. But after a year of it, like it's just who he is.
Let me ask you about injuries a little bit, Washington right now, because the Eagles have some to keep an eye on: Jalen Hurts, Quinyon Mitchell, Sam Cosmi out for the year. Like, how big of an injury is that? And are there other ones this week to kind of monitor?
That's it. There's other stuff we're going to see tomorrow on the injury report. There'll be other guys. Crowder and Zacchaeus had been fighting like soft tissue stuff. I'd be shocked if guys like Ertz and McLaurin don't get rest days this week. But the only like definitive, and it's a big blow. I don't want to pretend it's not. Losing Cosme is a big deal. He's been really good for them. He just got a contract extension done before the season. In his place, they'll probably go with Trent Scott, who has kind of been their 6th offensive lineman this year. He has, I would say he's been probably below average when he has to play tackle. But he was pretty good against Detroit. Cosme got hurt about midway through the second quarter, and Scott played the rest of that game, and he was pretty good. And there's a lot of belief in him. There's a lot of belief inside that locker room, kind of in everything they've got going. And their health luck has been, pointing up for the last few weeks. They get Lattimore back, you get John Allen back, you get Austin Eckler back. And this Cosme thing is obviously a downturn, but they've gotten a lot more back for the playoff run than they've lost.
How about that run defense? I think the Eagles are going to run it 50 times. Saquon had right around $150 in each of the first 2 games. What's Washington's kind of view of Saquon, this running game? That's really the heart of everything they do. And where do you see that Washington run defense right now?
I mean, Detroit put up 200 on him. Jahmyr Gibbs seemed like he could do anything he wanted. It's been a problem all season. It has been better of late, and weirdly in the 2 games against the Eagles, and this is going to sound a little like how's the play, Mrs. Lincoln, but in the 2 games against the Eagles, if you just remove Saquon's explosives, the the 50-yard touchdown runs. If you remove those, they did a good job against Saquon. But you can't remove those, obviously. One thing that I don't know that it is a complete game changer, but both games against the Eagles, John Allen didn't play in. He was hurt. He had a pec injury. He came back for week 17 against Atlanta, played week 17, 18, kind of was getting the rust off. Then he's been quite good. Tampa and Detroit, Allen's been quite good, and that helps them. But still, Detroit had an elite run game. They were able to get it going. If Detroit didn't give David Montgomery so many carries, Gibbs might still be running, ifs and buts, all that stuff. I don't know in the second game here in Washington why Saquon didn't get that many carries in the second half either. To your point, if they commit to the run and you're talking about Saquon getting 30 carries, and then if Jalen's healthy and he's getting 8 or whatever, like that is Philly's the better team in the trenches on both sides of the field. And if they choose to exercise that option, that should help them a lot.
Yeah, I think they probably will. That's kind of been what they've done a lot of the year. You mentioned John Allen. How about Lattimore coming back from the injury? It seemed like it took him a long time to play this year after the Commanders got him, but has he kind of been as advertised? Now you have him out there with Mikey Sainristil, who's been a really impressive rookie. Like, how have they kind of worked together?
Lattimore, they trade for him at the deadline. He ends up playing in New Orleans, was quite good in that game, but then kind of tweaked it again. Didn't really play until the playoff opener against Tampa. There was one drive where Mike Evans got the better of him. Also, him and Mike Evans, that thing is so magnetized that that just seemed like such a raw matchup for both of them. And Lattimore was coming back from the hammy still and just kind of rusty and played pretty well overall, but like the social media immediate reaction was Evans dogged him for a touchdown. And one thing Joe Witt, the defensive coordinator, said, he's like, man, we had Lattimore out there with 1 day of practice. Going into Detroit, he said he's going to have a full week. He's been running. He knows his legs are there. And he was pretty good against Detroit. He's a difference maker. I think he'll help with A.J. Brown. The Eagles' passing attack seems inconsistent anyway. And do one thing Lattimore that Mikey has also, that all of a sudden, and this hasn't been the case in Washington in a long time, all of a sudden with Sainristil and Lattimore, you have 2 corners that are very physical and very willing in run support. And I do think that can make a big difference this weekend.
Tell us about Brian Johnson, who offensive coordinator here last year, gets fired, resurfaces in Washington, I guess, assistant head coach, passing game coordinator, I think is his title. Obviously, and there's a lot of connections here with Ertz and OZ, certainly a lot of Eagles, Washington connections. What's been your impression of Brian Johnson, the job he's done?
I think it's pretty hard to argue. I think the most important person in Jaden's development is Jaden, right? Like I'm always I think sometimes we get so caught up in what a coach has done for a great player. I think most of the time the great player does it for the great player. But everybody involved with Jaden deserves some level of credit. Mariota's another guy here that has been a huge part of Jaden's development with Philly.
Former Eagle.
Yeah, exactly. Personally, and I'm sure your podcast audience is going to get mad at me here, I feel like Sirianni needed a scapegoat last year, and Brian Johnson was it. I have a hard time believing he was the problem with his track record of quarterback success. And then Jalen Hurts hasn't been nearly as good this year without him there. I don't want to say that's a direct correlation because obviously there's been some injuries and stuff too. As we record this on Tuesday afternoon, I'm not sure Kingsbury takes a job elsewhere. That Bears job's already seems like it's full. Cliff has said he's not taking interviews until the playoff run is over. So that the earliest that would be is next week, maybe even further than that. Like, I wonder if Brian Johnson would get the call if Cliff got a job and then he's the OC play caller here. I don't know that. Anthony Lynn is heavily involved here. Like, they've built a heck of a staff with a lot of seasoned kind of coaches. But the vibe here has been nothing but positive. They have kind of this huge quarterback room task force. Kingsbury, Brian Johnson, Tavita Pritchard is the actual QB coach. David Blau has been brought in as a secondary QB coach. The word on that guy is like super fast riser. I almost wouldn't be shocked if he's an OC soon. And he was playing, I think, 2 years ago. There's a lot of people involved there that I think Dan Quinn intentionally put together a big room, knowing he could lose Kingsbury at some point. But Brian Johnson, nothing but positives by locker room, coaches. Everything's gone well for him here.
I've got a fun one for you because that last game between these two teams was very chippy. It was a fun game to watch. CJ Gardner-Johnson gets tossed from that one. I think if I'm looking at the Eagles' most likely player to get like a personal foul, it's clearly CJ. Which commander is the most likely to get one of those like personal fouls and be a little too far over the edge?
Lattimore, I would say. Especially him and A.J. Brown start jawing or pushing and shoving. I'm trying to think the last time it happened. Like sometimes the O-line will get a little shovey as it relates to Jaden. If they think Jaden takes a hit too big or too late or something. But the guy that plays kind of on the edge of that, I would say, is Lattimore. Because their safeties are thumpers, but they kind of keep it calm. Jeremy Chin is an extremely low-key dude, even though he's a really good player. Quan Martin is a little livelier, but not necessarily in like the testy manner. It's a great question. I'm trying to think just through my head, but
I think Eagles fans like are focused on Luvu because of some of the hits, but he doesn't seem like an after the whistle kind of guy.
No, dude, and I've been fighting with people from Detroit all week. The hit on Goff on the pick six was completely clean. Goff was trying to make a play on the runner as he's going to the end zone, and Frankie put his shoulder pad into his chest. Like we've all watched enough football. There are times when D linemen and linebackers on an interception absolutely go quarterback hunting just to try to blow him up.
Hugh Douglas, Jim Miller, 2001, Soldier Field, ended his career.
Sure. There you go. There's a prime example. This was not that. He was trying to make a play on the guy as he's about to score.
Hey, last one from me. Zach Ertz really rejuvenated this year. I think he's 34 now. Has it been a surprise? I think he's got 8 touchdowns now, caught about 70 passes. Great guy, one of our favorites. Exceeded expectations down there?
For sure. What's funny is for your who could get a penalty thing, Ertz kind of crept into my head. Now, he keeps it so calm that I would be shocked. I'd be really surprised. But don't forget the Ertz Sirianni thing at the end of the game in week 16. I think Zach has been really, really smart about it's now the third game with Philly, right? Including this will be the second one going up there. And all he ever said was, no big deal. It's just another game. I don't think he means it. I think it is a very big deal. But I think he and Kingsbury are close. I think, they signed Ertz before free agency even opened because he was on the street. And he has been such a weapon and so helpful, I think, in Jaden's development. I think organizationally in that tight end room where you've got a bunch of young guys in the offensive room as a whole, he's been a really big part of this team's success and just a tone setter in all capacities.
All right, man, before we let you go, in this game, if the Commanders are going to find a way to win it, what does that look like? And then if you do have one ready, do you have a prediction yet?
I haven't landed on a number yet. I think they're going to win. I think Washington's going to win. I think Philly's got the better roster, undoubtedly. 1-53, I think Philly's the best roster in the NFL. But I think Washington's got the best player. And I think Saquon could kill Washington. Jalen Carter could kill Washington. But if they can minimize that, which is, I don't know that they can, I think Jaden can win this thing. I just think Philly's passing attack is so inconsistent that if Washington can score, I don't know that Philly can keep up.
You can use another word for inconsistent.
Bad.
You can use something stronger.
Yeah. Bad.
All right, man. We appreciate the time. Have fun on Sunday. We'll see you down here.
Yeah, man. Thank you, guys. Can't wait.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store and nissanusa.com today.
All right, we're back on the Eagle Eye Podcast. Thanks to our buddy JP Finlay. Really good stuff. Enjoy chatting with him. Man, he's covered some bad teams down there.
He really has. And he's enjoying this ride. Yeah. Not the biggest Nick Sirianni fan.
He's not, and I think anyone who isn't in this city, some people who are in this city, he can rub people the wrong way.
And I'm looking at this link you sent me, which is great. And this is not a StatHead link. This is a Pro Football Reference link. So that means it's not. You don't need a subscription to check this stuff out. So yeah, Eagles #1 against tight ends. The Chiefs 32nd, which is interesting. So there's a lot of production from tight ends, both for them and against them.
Yeah. You're going to play with that for a while, aren't you?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's get into real quick. The AP announced the finalists for all the major season-ending awards, and it doesn't really work like this. It's just they vote. There's voting, and then these are the 5 with the most votes.
Right.
Yeah. So
it's a weighted system. We vote for 5, and I think you just get like so many points for each spot. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
So 5 Eagles nominated for awards. Saquon Barkley nominated for 2, the MVP, and the Offensive Player of the Year. So the MVP finalists are Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Jared Goff, Lamar Jackson, and Saquon.
And those are the 5 I voted for.
Okay, good. And then the Offensive Player of the Year, he's nominated with Burrow, Jamar Chase, Derrick Henry, and Lamar.
Yeah, and I didn't put any quarterbacks in that category because I'm just looking at Offensive Player of the Year is not quarterback, offensive MVP.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. It's like it means different things to different people.
Yeah.
He's not going to win MVP.
No.
Yeah, I think we know Lamar's the MVP. I'd be shocked if he isn't. It's pretty much like the first team All-Pro quarterback ends up being the MVP. It is just a regular season award. It doesn't take into account the playoffs. So I think we know Lamar's going to win the MVP. I think Saquon's going to win the Offensive Player.
I think so too. I had him at the top of my list. And we have to vote by the Monday, the day after the last game, and then the awards are the Wednesday after the last game. The All Pros the Monday. So I think Saquon deserves it, and I think he will win it.
Yeah, and this will all be announced at NFL Honors on February 6th in New Orleans. We'll see if the Eagles are at the NFL Honors, things have not gone well. If they're in New Orleans and not there, things have gone very well.
That's true.
AP Assistant Coach of the Year, Vic Fangio, nominated along with Joe Brady, Brian Flores, Aaron Glenn, and Ben Johnson.
Yeah, it's basically Vic and head coaching candidates. So I had Stoutland on my ballot too, as well as Vic. I had 2 Eagles.
Oh, that's good.
But
it's very rare that it goes to a non-coordinator.
Oh, he never has. It's a relatively new award.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's even rare to even talk about them.
Yeah, there's not many. But Stoutland's one of a kind. I think Vic's got a shot, but
I don't.
It'll probably be.
I think it's going to
probably
you can argue the big snub there. I think it's going to go to Ben Johnson.
Probably, yeah.
But Vic's got a heck of a case.
He does.
I mean, the turn in whatever that slop was last year into the #1 defense in the NFL is like miracle work.
It really is, and
like that Lions offense pretty good last year too.
Right. I mean, Vic came in and took. What were they? They finished, I think, 28th in defense. And, Howie deserves a lot of the credit for cleaning house and getting rid of all those guys. But to take all these new pieces, some who had never, half the lineup had never been starters before, a couple, your All-Pro had never played the position before, 2 rookies, and to have the #1 defense in the league and be in the NFC Championship game with he deserves this award. He probably won't get it. He deserves it.
Defensive Player of the Year, Zach Bond, nominated for it, along with Myles Garrett, Trey Hendrickson, Patrick Surtain, and TJ Watt.
Those are the 5 on my ballot.
Okay. Who do you think wins it?
I think Myles Garrett wins it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Surtain has a shot. I think Zach Bond probably he certainly deserves to be there. I think it's tough from like a name recognition standpoint.
I'm amazed that he got all pro first team and he got in the top 5 without name recognition.
Yeah, I think it's been a good campaign by those of us who see him, like letting everyone know, like, no, this guy is legitimately like unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking about that yesterday, just about the fact that he's on all these lists. He said, he had incentives for all pro and Pro Bowl. I said, you have an incentive for top 5 and defensive player? He's like, no, we didn't do that one. I said, you need a new agent.
Yeah. I mean, if his agent had that written in.
I know, but he was just shaking his head that this is all even a conversation. I mean,
he does seem kind of like amazed about all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
really a guy that like was an afterthought signing.
Yeah. It's incredible.
He ought to be playing special teams right now.
Yeah.
And he does, but
he does. And he's pretty good at it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about it a bunch, but that first day of OTAs, we look after, like we were standing next. I still remember what field they were on. They were on the far field on the left. And I'm like, what's Zach Bond doing out there? I guess Nakobe's not healthy yet.
Yeah. It's just so wild to see his name next to some of these other guys who like we knew coming into this year would probably be in this conversation.
Yeah. And he was talking he thinks he should win it. Like, and I love that. Like,
I love that too.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then defensive rookie of the year, Cooper DeJean, Braden Fisk, Quinyon Mitchell, Chop Robinson, Jared Verse.
Couple Eagles, couple Rams. Yeah. Yeah. There was a lot of young talent on the defensive side in that stadium Sunday.
Who wins it?
I think Verse wins it.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Yeah. He's really good. Tell you what, Cooper, I mean, for what you're asking Cooper and Q, I mean, Q's probably, I guess Q's had a better year,
and he's played the whole year.
He's played the whole year. Cooper didn't.
Like you miss a quarter of the season, not miss, but you don't play a quarter of the season.
Yeah. Well, it's not a quarter. It's 23.53%.
Ended up being a quarter of his season.
Yeah, you're right. He didn't play the Giants game. My trivia question at Eagles Quizzo last night was, what band shares its name with the position that Cooper DeJean plays? I wonder how many people just put like Slot on their answer sheet. Is that a band? It must be like a punk band, Slot. But yeah. I don't think I had Cooper in my top 5. It was a tough one. I had Quinyon in there.
Yeah. I think Quinyon, like, certainly deserving of it.
I think it'll be top 3.
Yeah, it's tough as a rookie corner to win that award if you don't have an interception.
Yeah.
And he had the opportunities, which is going to kill him. Like,
especially early in the year.
Yeah. When teams were still throwing his way, he could have had like 4 picks.
Yeah.
If he has 4 picks, he's winning this award.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. And he finally got one in the Packers game, and Slay's like, well, he almost dropped it.
Yeah, so those are the finalists. I think the one the Eagles will win out of these is Saquon Offensive Player of the Year.
I would agree.
All right, you want to get to some questions?
Yes.
Let's do it. Eagle-Eye at NBCUni.com. You have the QR code. You can scan it. We're already running long, so we'll try to sneak some of these in. First one is from Spencer. So I preface all of this by saying you guys are by far the best Eagles podcast I listen to. Hell, at this point, you're the only Eagles podcast I can regularly listen to. That said, I just listened to wait a second. Oh. I just listened to the Tuesday podcast, and I can't believe that after a playoff win and a 16-win season at this point, and headed to the NFC Championship game, that I would need a Dave's positivity corner after listening to a podcast. I get that it wasn't the best performance by Jalen, but they won in the snow with an injured QB against an ascending team. I'm not asking you to cover over all the flaws, but it seemed like there should be more to be positive about than negative. Definitely didn't get that impression from the Tuesday show. We got a few of these.
Yeah, I thought we were balanced. I mean, I don't know how many times I've mentioned his 178 consecutive passes without interception in the postseason, third longest streak ever. And I mean, I hold him to a high standard, and like I've seen the way he can play, and I've seen him at his best, and he's scary good. And I just don't think he's been at that level.
Yeah, and I don't even think my criticism was on Jalen. It's like
a lot's on Kellen too.
Yeah, and I think people thought it was negative just because that broadcast we happened to start with the passing offense. Like if we started with the running offense, yeah, it's a really positive show. But I think like you're looking for, if you're talking about like the 4 areas of this team, right? Run defense, pass defense, run offense, pass offense. Which one of those 4 is not like the other? Yeah, pretty clear. It's the passing offense. And look, maybe it will never hurt them. Maybe they'll play this brand of football and they'll win the Super Bowl, and we'll all look like idiots for talking about it for weeks. And hey, if that happens, more power to them. I just think like if we're going to look at this and be honest about it, I think there is a little bit of cause for concern there.
And to me, it's on Sunday, it was the sacks. I mean, that's 63 yards of sacks.
And if it was just that one game in the snow, whatever. Yeah. But it wasn't just the snow. It wasn't one game. And it's been something we've talked about for really all season.
When you're up 6 and the Rams are at the 13-yard line and you could have been up 8 if the quarterback threw the ball away. Yeah. I mean, he's got to be better at those things.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Next one from Denny. Hey, y'all, love the podcast. I know Barkley is the best running back we have seen in a while, and I don't want to take anything away from him, but do you think that this O-line is excellent at run blocking, but so-so in pass protection? Is this what is dictating their offensive strategy?
No, I think they're really good at pass blocking. I think they're doing their job, and it kind of goes to what we were just saying. I think a lot of the sacks have been on. I think they ended up 31st in the regular season in sacks per pass attempt. But I don't think it's the O-line. I mean, they've had their breakdowns. I mean, some of the sacks are on them. Not many. I think a lot of it's just been Jalen holding on to the ball too long and having subpar pocket awareness.
Yeah, I think they're really good at pass protection. They are unbelievable at run blocking. So I think they are a better run blocking line, but that's not to say they're like deficient as a pass blocking offense.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. From Kevin, hey fellas, love the pod. You guys are the best. In that second Washington game, things sure changed when CJ got ejected. I think his absence cost us more than Jalen's that day. Will missing Nakobe Dean have a similar effect this coming weekend?
Well, the difference is you can prepare for not having Nakobe when you lose a guy like CJ in the middle of a game. It's unexpected. So they certainly missed Nakobe a ton, and he's playing at such a high level. You hate to see that happen, but I wouldn't put this in the same category because, and look, I mean, CJ's he's got to stay on the field, but man, he's been great this year, and I think he'll be okay. I don't think it'll happen again.
Yeah, it can't happen again. That would be insane. Let's do a couple more real quick. From Max. Hey, Dave and Rube. Hope your heart rates are finally going down from Sunday. I have 2 questions today. First being, it's crazy to think there was so much negative talk about Nick Sirianni at the beginning of the season, and if he was the right guy for the job. How do you think he has solidified his role as the head coach for at least another year? My second question, as we move to the NFC Championship, what do you think is our biggest weakness, and what do you think, and how do you think we strengthen that for the next game?
Well, I mean, the question about Nick is, I mean, they got to give him a contract. It's not just the next year.
Yeah, we've talked about this on the last pod. It's not their style to go into a lame duck year with a head coach.
Yeah, so I would expect that to happen. I mean, you can still fire him if they go 3-14 next year. Coaches get fired with years left on their contracts all the time, but I think he's probably earned himself a couple years with this run, and they're going to be good. Let's face it, they're probably going to be really good next year as well. His defense is only going to get better. Well,
tougher schedule, but still a good roster.
Yeah, depending who's back. But I think the biggest weakness on the team, and we just talked about, I think, is, the first 11 games they hit 14 plays of 35 yards or more, and they haven't had one since. So I would even go specifically splash plays more than just the passing offense. I go splash plays because it's really hard to drive 75 yards, 70 yards in 12 plays. They can do it, and they have done it. But as Saquon has shown, it's a lot easier to just kind of, hit a big play. Their big plays have all come in the running game lately. Which
is so weird.
So unusual.
It is unusual, but like that's the cool thing about their run game is like they can hit these big plays. They don't have to stop running ever.
Right.
Which is so rare.
Yeah.
We'll do one more.
Sure.
Last one here is from Greg. Hello, Dave and Rube. Since Bryce Huff is suiting up on game day and not playing any snaps, why not suit up BG instead? Even if it's just for inspiration purposes, it will be more effective than getting nothing from Huff. Everyone remembers Willis Reed coming out of the tunnel, but few remember he only scored 4 points in a few minutes of playing time. Just suiting up was all the Knicks needed from their leader. BG could provide the same spark. P.S. Rube, keep doing the Kotite impressions. They are perfect. We were in the soup. I'm not going to do the impression.
In the soup. That was a good one. Man, Willis Reed is an all-timer. When that comes up on like old, highlight reels and stuff, man. It's an all-timer. I'm going to get emotional.
BG, you the reason you don't do that is because if there's an injury, you need that player to play. Yeah. I like the idea, though.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see it happening. But, I mean, he's such a legend around here, and it would be the perfect capper of his career if he could pull it off. But I just don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. If you have a question for us, eagle@nbcuni.com, QR code's on the screen. I'm sure we are going to have a full inbox no matter what happens in that game on Sunday. So looking forward to that. Rube, we have reached the end of our show. Prediction time. Let's start with the AFC. Chiefs and Bills. Who do you think will be in the Super Bowl in New Orleans?
I'm going to go Bills. I've had them ranked number one for the last so many weeks. The Chiefs have been doing it with smoke and mirrors and great defense. I just think it might be the Bills' time.
Yeah, I'm taking the Chiefs.
Yeah,
I've said it. They're inevitable. They just, until they don't win, I'm going to pick them to win.
Somebody posted a meme yesterday that the Bills have already been called for like 2 personal fouls.
That's good.
Before the end of the week. I'm going to go Bills. I wish we could watch that game. We'll be kind of busy doing this.
Yeah. Eagles Commanders.
I'm going to go Eagles. I think top to bottom, they're the better team. Washington's dangerous. They do some things really well. They're a little scary because of that last game and the way it ended. The Eagles are going to find a way. I'm just confident they're going to figure it out, and it might be hair raising by the last couple of minutes, but I think they're going to get out of this thing with a win. Yeah,
I really like what you said when we did our event on Wednesday night. That the Commanders might have the better quarterback right now, but the Eagles have the better team. This is a team game. They have the better defense. I think overall they have an offense that can put up points. I think from a talent perspective, it's not particularly close. I think the Eagles are the more talented team. I think they're going to win. I think we're going to New Orleans.
And I think being at home is huge as well. Washington's done this whole run on the road, which good for them, but that's a lot. No, they don't have to get on a plane or anything, but I think it's going to be, man, I can't wait. I just can't wait.
And man, that building, I've covered 2 championship games here. You've covered more. The environment in the Link on Sunday is going to be unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. And I can't wait to feel it and experience it. And it's going to be a fun day. One thing I wanted to say is people have, if the Eagles do get to the Super Bowl, they get daily pods from us.
Mm-hmm.
Do one every day down there.
Yeah, so if you weren't rooting for the Eagles before,
now you have a reason. That's good.
All right, if you enjoy the Eagle Eye Podcast, please rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. Enjoy the game on Sunday. We'll talk to you after it ends.